Can you see my screen?
Yes, Prof.
The presentation?
Yes.
You can see.
Yes, Professor.
Oh, very well. So now today we start a very, somebody told that this one, just 1 minute. Yeah. Now we start a very important topic, and this is the topic about the weak verbs. And actually you will see that most of the verbs in Hebrew language are weak. So what does it mean weak? Weak verbs means that they have at least one guttural consonant. Like for example, aleph, hey, het, ein, or resh. Resh is not guttural, but almost like guttural. And also the problem are with the letters yud, vav, and nun. So those letters are also can create some problems. And because of this guttural letters or nun, vav, yud, because of those letters, the conjugation of those verbs deviates from the basic conjugation. And do you know why they choose the verb katal, which actually has a not very pleasant meaning, to kill? Why did they choose it for the paradigm conjugation, like a model conjugation? Because it looks like it is the only verb that doesn't have any of these weaknesses. So it doesn't have any gutturals, doesn't have nun, vav, yud. It doesn't have bigat kefat letters, because bigat kefat letters also could be a reason for some deviation from the basic paradigm. And now, in order to understand, or in order to better understand the weak verbs, they are usually categorized, and there are several categories of the weak verbs. And here on this slide, you can see all those categories. The first guttural, the second guttural, the third guttural, and there are some special cases which do not, which have some more deviations, something unusual. So that is why they are singled out to a different category. Like for example, first aleph, third hey, first nun, second, it's a mistake, first yud, second vav, second yud, and geminate verbs. So the geminate verbs are the verbs where the third letter is repeated again, and the second and the third letters are the same. So these are all the categories of the weak verbs. But do not be afraid of them, because actually it is not as difficult as it may seem to be. And now we will see. So now our task is to understand the three first categories: first guttural, second guttural, and third guttural. And we will see that it is not difficult at all. It is just minor issues. And also today we will discuss the verbs with the third hey. Verbs with the third hey. And now let us start. So yes, and there are other weak verbs, and we will speak about them a little bit later. And yes.
Before you continue, the other time I observed that the Zoom gallery covered some portions of the content you were displaying.
Yeah, yes, thank you. So what I did right now on my screen, because it is recorded on my screen, I just removed all those faces or all those tablets of the people, and I take it into consideration. So I hope this time it will not be difficult for you when you will watch it. Okay, thank you for this observation. Okay, so let's continue. Other weak verbs, these are the verb haya, to be, haya, to live. So do you see it's very similar? The only difference is in the first letter. the first letter hey or het. The verb hava, but this verb is very particular because it is a weak verb, but the problem with this verb is that it occurs in one binyan, which is not among 7 binyanim that we study. It occurs in binyan hishtafel, and when you find this verb in the text, so you can hardly recognize that this is the verb hava, but it's not a problem. I will just explain it to you a little bit later. Natan, to give. This verb has many deviations from the basic paradigm. That is why it is better just to learn it by itself. And lakach and halach, they behave in some cases as the verbs with the first yud. Also, they do not have first yud, but when they are conjugated, especially in imperfect or yictol, they are exactly as the first yud. And we will speak about those verbs a little bit later. So now let us consider the verbs with the first guttural. The problem or the reason of the deviation in conjugation is that sometimes in some paradigms the guttural letters, should take sheva or dagesh, but those letters, gutturals, cannot take dagesh or sheva. That is why there are some deviations from the basic paradigm. If we take the first guttural letters as an example, and if you remember the basic paradigm, we can remember that in some cases, and especially in the second masculine plural and second feminine plural, it is supposed to be a sheva under the first consonant. And if the first consonant is guttural, so it is clear that the first letter cannot take sheva. So what happens in this case? In this case, the sheva is substituted with the compound sheva, as you can see in this example. Amat 10, amat 10. In all other cases, there are no any other changes in this paradigm. So you can see it is just a minor thing, and it's very understandable. If you have a first guttural, it cannot take sheva. That is why sheva is substituted with the compound sheva. Most probably it will be chatef patach. So this is the only problem with this conjugation, katal conjugation for the first guttural. But if you go to the yictol conjugation, so you will see that there are more changes, and it is because not almost in all yictol conjugation, you will have sheva under the first consonant. Yik-tol, tik-tol, tik-teli, and so on and so forth. So is it clear? It is clear that in this case, sheva, the first consonant cannot take sheva, and what happens? It takes a compound sheva, and you can see it is chatef patach everywhere. And when it takes a compound sheva, the vowel of the prefix is also changed, so it will be the same as the vowel of the compound sheva. So ya'amot, and he will stand. Ta'amot, she will stand. Ta'amot, you will stand. Ta'amdi, you feminine will stand. And pay attention to the first person. Here we have basic paradigm is ectol, and in this case segol remains, but the vowel under the guttural letter, first consonant, will be also compound sheva, but in this case it will be chatef segol, not chatef patach. Everything else is very predictable, so everything else is the same. So you can see it is also very, very clear, and it's not a big challenge. So I see that some of you ask questions in chat. Oh no, it's not a question, it is just some dialogue among you. Okay, so now let's go to the second guttural. Let's go to the second guttural. And when we speak about the second guttural, you remember that in the basic paradigm, it is in the third person where we have sheva under the second letter of the root. For example, katela or katelu. And the same picture, so because the second letter cannot take sheva, it will take a compound sheva. Like, for example, shahatu, shahata. Shahata. So do you see, it's not a problem at all. It is very clear. And in the yik-tol conjugation, we have in the second masculine plural and third masculine plural where where sheva appears under the second letter, and it also the same picture. It will take compound sheva, and the thematic vowel in most of them will be not or cholim, yik-tol, but it will be patach, yishchat, tishchat, tishchat, and so on and so forth. So these are the only changes that happens in the verbs with the second guttural. So is it clear so far? Okay, we can continue. The third guttural, and the same situation with the third guttural, but we need to remember one thing. They allow, for some reasons, third guttural can take sheva, and you will see that, for example, shalach ta, it takes sheva, the third guttural. The only thing when the second feminine, it doesn't take sheva, but it will be changed to patach. So this is the only change in this paradigm. And in all other cases, the third guttural, when it needs to take sheva, it will take sheva. So they allow a third guttural letter to take sheva. And in the yik-tol conjugation, there is no problem at all, but the only change is that the thematic vowel is not cholim, but patach, and you can see it everywhere. So this is basically all the changes that we have in the first, second, and third guttural letters. And it is not very much problematic, and it is not very challenging, so it's very easy. Even we don't need to memorize it. We just need to understand the principle. When a sheva happens, and if it happens under the guttural vowel, so in this case, the guttural vowel cannot take sheva, so it takes a compound sheva, and that's all. When we study other binyanim, for example, PL, POAL, HIT-PAEL, in those binyanim, second letter always has a dagesh forte. And we will have another problem when, for example, the second letter is guttural, and this guttural letter cannot take dagesh forte. So that is why those conjugations will also be affected by this, but we will study it a little bit later. Now, we will come to another. Yes.
Did you say that it takes sheva when it changes from singular to plural?
Again, please.
Did you say that it takes sheva when it changes from singular to plural?
No, I didn't say like this.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit more? I didn't understand your question.
For example, when you had put your cursor on second person plural singular masculine and third person plural masculine, you said that it allows to take sheva and the other one changes, it doesn't take sheva. I wanted to understand the role of Sheva in the changes from singular to plural.
No, it's not from about singular and plural. I just said that when the third guttural letter, when we have this case, they allow the third guttural letter in the verbs to have Sheva. Okay, so it doesn't matter is it plural or singular. So it is everywhere. Like for example, shalachta, 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 and shelachtem. So do you see? It is not supposed to be here. And it is not supposed to be here because het is a guttural letter, and guttural letter usually doesn't take Sheva. But for this case, they allowed Sheva to be here. Okay? So don't be surprised if you have a Sheva under the third guttural letter in the verb, in a verb.
Sorry, second person of feminine, we have pata here.
Yes, so this is the only deviation in the second feminine singular when we have patach. Okay?
Yes, yes. Yes.
Now, we come to the very, very important topic, and those verbs which are singled out to a separate category, it means that they have much more deviations, and their deviation do not cannot be classified as just a third guttural. So they have some other changes in the deviation. And you will see that the verbs with the third hey are really different. We already saw that in some cases the third hey is so weak letter, so it tries to escape from the root. So it just drops in some cases. And that is why, for example, in Vaiktol form, in the third person, and sometimes not only in the third person, but in some other forms as well, the third hey just disappears. And we already studied it last week. And now, when we look at the conjugation of this verb, we can see that it really sometimes there are a lot of changes here. And what is the problem with this category of verbs? Many years ago, in the origin of the language, the letter hey was not there. There was another letter there, the letter yud. So those original form of this verb is third letter was yud. But when the language was developing, evolving, so some changes took place, and the letter yod was completely substituted with hey. But in some cases, you can see that the original yod remains. And you can see it on this example. For example, gala, third masculine singular, galeta, galita, galit, galiti, galu, gelitem, gelitem, geliten, and galinu, galinu. So do you see in some cases we can see that a letter yud appears again. Yes, and in some cases letter tav appeared instead of hey, and not so many changes are in the plural paradigm, but Eofiktol, but we still have it. So how we can memorize it? There is a very simple rule. If the suffix which is supposed to be added starts with the consonant, in this case, a letter yud appears. For example, galita, suffix is ta. When suffix is ta, in this case, a hey, which is supposed to be here, is substituted with the yud, and we have galita. And yud is conflated with the vowel, so we have not a separate letter, but we have matres lectionis here. Galita, the same. Galit. So suffix starts with a consonant, That is why we have yud here. Galiti. Galitem, the same. Suffix starts with the consonant. Galiten and galinu. But in case if the suffix starts with a vowel, yes, like for example, galu, so just hey disappears and is substituted with we can say just it drops out. Galu and tigli. So in this case, it just drops out and we don't have it anymore. And the only other thing is the third feminine singular when we have tough, where hey is supposed to be. And it is because we have like two hey here and it doesn't look very nice, so they substituted with the tough. Galeta. And sometimes when people try to understand these weak verbs, and if they do not study it systematically, so in this case they could be confused, because for example when they see this verb, they can assume that the root is gimel lamet taf, but the root is gimel lamet hey, or they can assume that the root is gimel lamet yud, but the root is gimel lamet hey. So these are the only changes that we can have in this paradigm. So is it clear?
Yeah, it's trying to be
Yes,
clear.
we are following.
Yes.
We are following.
Okay, so the only thing that we need to do is just to practice. And one more thing that I notice is helpful, because I remember when I studied Hebrew, I really struggled with the weak verbs. And there were many different approaches how to learn the weak verbs. And I understood that all of them do not work very well. At least they didn't work well for me. But the approach that really worked well for me was, also this is just the explanation, I noticed that actually those verbs, for example, with the third hey, there are about like 20 verbs with the third hey, which occur most often in the Bible. And if you know those verbs, it will be much easier for you to recognize them in the text. So that is why when we study the verbs with the third hey, I provide a list with the most common verbs with the third hey. And I will just write you, I will just ask you to memorize those verbs as the part of your vocabulary. And you will see that it will be much easier for you to find the verb if you already know what kind of verb could occur in this or that case. And you can see these are the list of the most common verbs. There are of course some more, but these ones you will see very often. You will find them very often in the Bible. So it is better to just to learn them and to be prepared that you can find them, you can encounter them in the text. For example, avar, to want, to desire. Actually, I will not emphasize now this word very much, and it will not occur very much right now in the exercises, because usually this verb requires an infinitive. I want to do something, for example. That is why we will speak more about this verb when we will study infinitive, and it will occur much more often in those exercises. And the problem with this verb that it has two weak consonants, aleph and hey. And of course, it will affect somehow the conjugation. Bacha, to weep. Bacha, to weep. If you remember the second chapter of the book of Judges, there is a place there which is called Bohim, because they were weeping there. So to weep, to cry is bacha. Bana, it seems to me you already know this verb. It means to build. And do not confuse this verb, the verb bana, with other some similar words, like for example, ben, son, or ban, which is a preposition between, because in some of the forms the final head drops, and you can just confuse it with some other verbs. Gala, to open. Actually, gala has another interesting meaning, because if it is this verb, if it vocalized a little bit different, gola, not gala, but gola, it also means exile. And why exile is gola? Because according to the tradition, they went to exile naked, so opened. And gala is somehow related to the nakedness, to open the nakedness, and so on and so forth. Okay, and now another word is to finish, kala. Kala is to finish. The next one is ra'a, to look, to see. And this is a very, very common verb. You can find it very, very often times, very many times in the Hebrew Bible. Allah, to go up, to ascend. It seems to me you also know this verb. Ana is to answer. Asa is to do, to make. And shata is to drink. The one, how to remember shata, do you know another Hebrew word is mishteh? And mishteh is a feast. And this feast is supposed that they drink during this feast. For example, when we speak about the story of Samson, he wanted to organize a wedding party, and this wedding party is called mishteh. And when it is called mishteh, it comes from the same root shata, and it means that during this party they drank a kind of alcohol. But shata means actually you can use it for anything. So you can drink water, shata, and you can drink alcohol, is the same shata. But in the case of Samson, it is an indicator that actually he always going at the age. It means he's a Nazarite, but he always he's always very close to breaking the rules for the Nazarites. Okay, so now we need, so I think it is clear, and we will practice it a little bit later, and we will have a lot of exercise, and we will practice recognizing those verbs when you do your exercises. And now we need to discuss several more issues today, and this is the word or the phrase, I don't know how to tell it. And this is lemor. Lemor, actually it is infinitive construct. We will study it a little bit later, but because it is a kind of technical verb, technical word, it is a good time to introduce it right now. So lemor usually is not translated into English because they used this word in order to indicate the beginning of the direct speech. So they didn't have a quotation mark in the past. So when they need to indicate that the direct speech starts, they use this word, lemor. Sometimes in old translations, it is translated as saying or speaking, but usually saying. But if you omit this word in translation, it is still okay. So because actually it is not needed in our language when we use the quotation mark. I will give you just an example. Rivka amera el Yaakov lemor. Hine shamati, and the continuation, I didn't continue, but just in order to give you the idea. And Rebecca said, Amara, Rivka is Rebecca. The first word is Rivka. And Rebecca, Amara is from Amar, to say, and it is past tense. So, and Rivka said, El Yaakov. And Rivka said to Jacob, Lemor. And do you see in the translation, and it seems to me it is English Standard Version, this lemor is just omitted because it is not needed actually. But sometimes it is provided in the translation as a word saying. And Rivka said to Jacob, saying, behold, hine is behold, shamati, shama is to listen. By the way, you know this word, shama, yes? Shamati means I heard. And she continues her direct speech. So you can see it's not very difficult, it's very easy. If you have any questions, you can just stop me. And if not, we can continue. And this is also from the Bible. And I just modified a little bit of this verse. And it seems to me only one word that you do not know. It is the last one. But everything else you are able to translate. And let us do it together. May I ask somebody to read? Let us practice reading.
May I read
Yes, sure.
the whole thing? All right. Vayomer
Okay,
Adonai.
very correct. Because in this case, the accent falls on the first syllable of the root. Vayomer. Correct. Continue.
Vayomer Adonai.
Very well. Because I'm very happy that you understood that the tetragrammaton should be read as Adonai and not as Yehovah or whatever.
El Moshe Lemor.
Well.
Ani.
Well.
Adonai.
Well.
Homer.
Tomar.
Oh, sorry. Oh, Homer, sorry.
Tomar.
Oh, Tomar. Oh, sorry. Tomar. El. Paro. Melech. Mitzrayim. Et Kal.
No, wait, be careful here.
Oh, Kol, sorry.
Yes.
Sorry. Kol Asher. Ani. Amarti. Elecha.
Okay, very well. So thank you, Pastor Posla. Yeah. May I ask somebody try to translate it? Vayomer. How can we translate Vayomer? Oh, are you here?
And he said.
Yes, and he said, very well. And he said, who said? Adonai. So we can say, and the Lord said
to Moses.
El Moshe. And the Lord said to Moses, Lemor. And we can just omit it. Or we can say saying. Ani.
I, the Lord.
I am the Lord. So you have to remember that in Hebrew, usually this I am, M is omitted. So they don't have this M. So when they want to say I am a king, so they just say Ani Melech. So there is no this verb that connects to nouns. So in this case, Ani Adonai means I am the Lord. Okay. Next one, Tomar. So Tomar is
You
the
will
same
say,
from Amar. Yes.
you
Okay.
will say,
You will say. Very well. Very well. So
to
you will
Pharaoh,
say
to King Pharaoh,
to Pharaoh, Melech is a king, correct? Mitzrayim,
Of Egypt.
Egypt.
King
So
of
you will tell to Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, what will you tell?
that
Et kol.
that
What is et in
or
this case?
or are you
All I say.
or are you will say,
All.
are you will say
All. Asher, we can translate it that or which,
all that,
or we can
yes.
even go omitted is also possible. All that ani.
All that I
What?
will say,
Oh, wait.
I.
Be careful here. Amarti.
I said,
All I have said.
Yes, all that I have said. Okay, because amarti is katal and it is supposed to be translated as past tense. All that
Yes.
I have said. And elecha you don't know, but el is the same as here. El. To. And ha, can you just guess what it means?
To you.
To you. Yes, very well. Elecha means to you. So you don't know this word. This is the only word that you didn't know. And very well. I'm really very, very much satisfied how you did this translation. Okay, and now something more about the new material. And we will start learning some interrogative particles. Actually, they are not always interrogative. They can be used as a conjunction in the sentence, and you will see it a little bit later. And the first particle is a what, and in Hebrew it sounds as ma, just ma. And it is very easy to remember. Do you remember manna that fell down?
What
yes,
is it?
and they ask each other what it is. Yes, what is it? And a manna, it comes from the same root ma, which means what. Okay, so every time when you see ma, just remember manna, and ma means what. But the same.
Okay.
Yes, the same as with the article, there are some changes, and sometimes you can find ma with patach, sometimes ma could be with kamets, and sometimes it could be me, also possible. So it depending on the word which follows ma. So if it is one of the guttural letters, so in this case it can change the vowel to a different one. And what is also important, when it is connected to another word with the makef, it's also possible. So the first letter has dagesh forte. So it will be some signs that this is the interrogative particle was added to the word, and it is very similar to the definite article. And now let's try to practice. Okay, do you know the verb sha'al? Sha'al? No. Okay, sha'al means to ask. Remember King Saul. In Hebrew, King Saul is Shaul. And Shaul means that he was asked for. People asked for a king. So he is asked for. So it comes from the verb sha'al, which means to ask. And you remember that sha'al actually it is a verb with the second guttural. Aleph is second guttural, and because in the third common plural Shiva appears here, so Shiva is substituted with the compound Shiva. Okay, so let's try to translate this sentence, and may I ask somebody to read it first.
Vaya shahal.
Again, please.
Anashim.
Va yish alu. The first word.
Vish.
Va yish alu.
Va yishalu.
Yes, very well.
Ha anashim.
Very well.
Le melek.
Okay, lemelech. The last lemelech. Yes, well.
Le melek.
Okay.
Lemor.
Lemor.
Lemor. Me. Asit.
Asita.
Asita.
Yes.
Le navi.
Le navi. Okay. I will read it again. Ve'ish alu ha'anashim lemelech lemor. Me asita le navi. Okay, sha'al, the first one is to ask.
And the man asked the king, saying,
Okay.
What did the prophet do?
Again.
And the man asked the king,
okay.
saying,
Okay.
What did the prophet do?
What have you done to the prophet?
Oh, what have you done to the? Oh,
Yeah.
oh yes. What have you done to the prophet?
Very well. Well, so pay attention to asita. Asita.
Yes.
Do you see ta? Is you.
Yes.
You.
So what did you do
to the prophet?
To the prophet. So again, and ha'anashim, yes, and people or man asked lemelech, asked the king, saying, or we can just omit it. What have you done to the prophet? Okay, so do you see it's not very difficult?
Excuse me, Prof.
Yes, of course.
What if I say, and they asked the king without necessarily mentioning the man?
Oh, but do you
Is it
see?
okay?
No, because it is
I have
provided
cheated.
here.
Okay, I have cheated.
Yeah, so it would be not very correct.
Okay.
Okay. But do you see when we have the third person, when we see that the verb is in the third person, we need to look around. Maybe there is a subject. Because if we have the second person, so it is clear that it is you. Yes. When we have the first person, it is clear that it is I. But when there is a third person, when we have the third person, it could be anybody else. It could be not just he or she or they. It could be...
Now, Prof.
Yes.
Is it always that anashim can be substituted with the people? Is it always?
Sometimes, yes, it is possible because do you see there are several words for people in Hebrew. Ha-anashim, it looks like it is man in plural. Yes.
Yes.
There is also a word and means people or nation.
Okay.
And another word is goy. Goy is also for nation.
Yes.
And if we, especially in late rabbinic Judaism, they try to differentiate between and goy, because is for the Israelites and goy is for everybody else. So, for example, from the point of view of rabbinic Judaism, they would call us goy, because we are not Jewish people, so we are goy. But what is interesting, that if we read the Bible and we read the promise given to Abraham, so Abraham was promised that from him a goy will appear in the future. So he was promised not only but he was promised goy. So it means that in the original stage of the developing of the language, there was no difference between and goy. So it was like synonymous. But in our exercises, you need to understand that these are just technical exercises, and many of them are not from the Bible, but they are just artificial in order for us to learn. Okay, let's continue. And we can memorize now this new verb. And it is very, very similar, but a little bit different. So I may ask somebody to read first. I may ask somebody who didn't read, just a new person, somebody.
Vaishala Lu.
Va'ish alu, very well.
Ha Anashim.
Very well.
Lenavi.
Lenavi, very well.
Lemor.
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 Mm-hmm.
Ma.
Well.
Naase.
Naase. Very well. Very well. Okay, now let's try to translate it. And the beginning is very similar to the beginning of the previous sentence.
And the people
kept.
And the people, no, Sha'al is not to keep. Shamar is to keep. Sha'al is to, remember Shaul. Shaul, the king of Israel, who was asked for, people were asking for a king. So Sha'al means to ask.
And the man asked the prophet.
And the people.
Yes, we can say the man or the people asked
to the prophet.
Ask the prophet, yes.
Saying,
okay,
what will we do?
What shall we do? What shall we do? Or what will we do? Very well. So na'ase is from the root asa, and asa means to do, to make. And na'ase is, nun here is a plural, first person plural. And we will do, we will translate it, we will do, or we shall do. Do you see there is a dagesh here, and why the dagesh appeared here? Why did it appear here? Because of ma. So when it is added to the word, so it is always with the dagesh. So we can translate it, and the people and the man asked the prophet, saying, what shall we do? Very well, very well. So we can continue. And we have another particle, and this is particle y. And actually, it is very easy because this particle y, it sounds like lamma, and it has some other ways how it is written. It could be with dagesh in letter mem. It could be lemma, lama, lamma. So there are different ways how the same word could be written. But what is important, this word is a compound word. What it means? Actually, in Hebrew language, there are many, many examples of the compound word when we have two different words joined together, and in this case, a new word appeared. So this is the combination of the of the preposition le, for or to, and the particle ma. And when we translate this lama, literally it will be for what. But in English, it is better to translate it as why. As why. Okay? So lama means why. And as I told you, it could be written a little bit different. So I highlighted this lama here. Lama here, I highlighted with red. Okay, may I ask somebody to read it first? Don't be shy.
Hana,
Oh, Pastor Posma, may I ask somebody else to read?
Hana, lama,
Oh,
lame.
Pastor Nema, may I ask somebody? You already read. Don't be shy. Even if you are not able to read it fluently, don't worry. We are learning, and it is not for the grade, and you should not be shy.
Hana,
Well,
lame,
lame. Well,
lame, tibeki, tibeki,
tivki,
tivki, zelame,
velame. Very well.
lo, tokli,
Yes.
tokli,
Toheli. Yes, toheli.
tokli.
Okay, so I need to give you several explanation. Hanna is the proper name. Hanna. Hanna is the proper name. Is the wife of Elkanah,
Yes.
the mother of Samuel.
Yeah.
I almost thought, behold.
Okay.
Hine.
No, it's not Hine, it's Hannah. Hannah, yeah, it's vocalized differently. Yeah, if we didn't have the vowel, so we could assume that it is no, Hine starts with the hey, not
Head,
head,
uh-huh.
not head.
head.
Yes, and so we have to be careful. So Hannah is a name. Lame is a why. Okay. Tivhi. Okay, yeah. This verb is very tricky. But now what we know, let us use what we know right now. So let's try to understand what kind of verb it is. Let's try to find the root of the verb.
Is it a third hey?
Do you see the first letter tough? But letter tough is very rare, could be the part of the root, because most probably it is just a prefix, performative. Okay, so we remove letter tough. So what do we have? Bad.
Baha.
Yes.
Bahar, to choose.
Baha. And if
So it's
we
a third hey.
yes, the root with the third hey. And Baha means to weep or to cry. Okay, now let's try to understand the morphological form. So is it Baha?
Why did you say Baha instead of Vaha? There's no dagesh.
Oh, yeah. Do you see? I told you already that this dagesh is in Begat Kefat. It is a matter of how to say. Yes, it can be changed, so it's not all permanent there. And for example, what the rule is like this: so if they have a vowel before, or vowel sound before the root, before the letter with Begat Kefat, so in this case it is not supposed to be there. But if they do not have a vowel, for example, here we have lame, the previous word ends with the "e." That is why there is no dagesh here. But do you see here? The root is baha, and in the root there is no dagesh. But what do you see? What happened? We have a silent shwa here, tivhi, tivki, and because the previous sound is consonant, so the letter with the bigat kifat takes a dagesh here. So I didn't tell you those, and the same here. Lo to tochli, yes. Why do we not have dagesh here? Because the previous sound is vowel. But I didn't want to just make it very complicated for you. That is why I didn't mention for you this rule. And that is why Nathan, what Harry asked, it is not supposed to have a dagesh in the vocabulary form. Okay, so tivki, what does it mean? What form is this? Who is
Whip.
Yiktol? Yes, whip. But who is whipping here?
Hannah.
No, not Hannah. Yes,
Oh.
Hannah whipping, but the morphological form is here. Which form is this? So just remember the paradigm of Yiktol. Yiktol, Tiktol, Tiktol, Tikteli. So you see this E. This E.
Oh, it's first person.
No. It's not the first person. It's Yiktol paradigm.
The second person is feminine.
Yes, the second feminine singular. So in this case, we need to provide a pronoun you, feminine. At. Okay?
Right.
So now let's try to translate it. Hannah lame. Why? Are you?
Why are you
crying? And this is the case when Yiktol, as I told you during our previous lesson, that Yiktol is not always future tense.
Why not tickly?
In some cases, it could be translated as
Why
a present
don't you?
tense as well. So in this case, we need to translate it as a present tense. So, Hannah, why are you crying, or why are you weeping?
And why?
And why? And do you see this is E the same? E is the same.
Why? Yes.
And, let's try to understand the root.
Why don't you? Why don't you?
Yes, yes.
Why don't you?
Achal, do you know achal? Achal is to eat.
So it is, Hannah, why are you crying and why don't you eat?
Yes, and why are you not eating? Yes, but yeah, it's possible, it's correct. Okay, so you understood it, yes? Sometimes it is a little bit tricky to put everything together, but we have to be very careful. Another particle is me, and me means who. So ma means what, and me means who. Let's try to read this sentence. May I ask somebody to read?
Okay, I read.
Oh, Harry, maybe somebody else. Harry, maybe
Okay.
somebody else.
No problem.
Pastor Isaac, yes, if you like, you can read it. Or anybody else?
Wayomer,
Vayomer.
Wayomer, Avimelech,
Avimelech.
Lo, Yadati,
Yadati.
Mi, Asa, Et, Hadavar, Haze.
Very well. Very well. I'm really very, very much satisfied when I read how you read, when I listen how you read. Okay, so let's try to translate it. Vayomer is so often, it is so often phrase or word that it's very easy to translate. So this is from the Bible. Anybody? Are you here?
Okay.
We're here, Prof.
V.
Okay. Pastor, try. Pastor Butala?
Okay. The father to the king said,
Again.
the father to the king said,
Oh, you very well. You translated it literally. Avimelech, you translated as the father of the king. Very well. But actually it is a proper name. And it could be translated as just Avimelech. Do you see it is from, it seems to me, from chapter 20 of the book of Genesis, when Abraham came to the king of the Philistines, and his name was Avimelech. But it is a very, very good thing that because you translate it is literally, Av means father, and Melech is king. And sometimes people say that Avimelech is not a proper name, maybe, but it is a kind of title. A royal title, because if you call somebody Avimelech, so it means that your father is his father is king. By the way, just one thing for you just to ponder about. Do you remember what was the name of the son of Gideon? How did Gideon call his son? He called his son Avimelech. And when he called his son Avimelech, it could be a kind of a hint that he considered himself a king. Okay, but it is another topic, so we will not go very further. Pastor Butala, may I ask you to continue?
I don't know why.
Very well. Not why. Me is who.
Okay, I don't know who did this thing.
Very well. So davar means thing or word, depending on a context. In this case, it's better to translate a thing. And Avimelech said, Lo yadati, and lo yadati means I didn't know, or it's also possible to translate I don't know. Me is who asa did et hadavar hazeh, this thing. Very well, Pastor Butale. Very well. Thank you very much for the translation. Okay, now one more particle. Interrogative.
Please, Prof. Please, Prof.
Yes.
Can you repeat the translation of this word, please?
Okay, I will translate everything again. And Avimelech said, I didn't know who had done this thing. Okay.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Okay, so let's continue. And this is also from the Bible. And this particle, it has two ways of pronouncing or echa with the kametz hey in the end. And it means how. It seems to me in this sentence, you know everything and you can translate everything. And it is also from the Bible. So do you see, we started reading and translating the Bible, the real sentences from the Bible. Okay, may I ask somebody just to read it first? Just try. May I ask somebody who has not read before? Pastor Frederick, do you want to read?
Yes,
Have you read it already or not?
not yet.
Okay, try.
Vahek,
Ve'ech.
Ve'ek, Hesa.
No. Do you see the first two letters are not pronounced? So what we do in this case, we just pronounce the vowels which are under them. And it is always the goal.
Sego.
So it is pronounced as e.
Okay. Esa.
E-e-se.
Ese. Ese.
E-e-se. Very well.
Vahek, Ese. Hara.
Hara-a.
Hara-a. Hagadola.
Hagedola.
Hagedola. Hazot.
Hazot. Very well. Very well. Hazot. Very well. Now let's try to translate this sentence. And means how. Okay, anybody?
How did I do this great evil?
Very well, Pastor Butala. Yes. And how shall I do this great evil? Very well. So the is how. Ese, it is from asa, to do, and aleph is an indicator of the first person singular. So how I will do, or how shall I do. Ra or ra'a means evil, and this is this evil. And hazot is the same as ra'a, is feminine. So this evil, and gedolah is a big one. or great one. How shall I do this great evil? This great evil. Yes. Okay, very well, very well. So shall we continue? And one more interrogative particle. So this, yes.
Can you go back
Sure.
to the previous one?
Yes.
When I thought that Ra was evil and
Yes.
Ra'a meant to see.
Oh, no, 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 no. Do you see the difference is the Ain, the letter Ain.
Or
In
Ain, or instead of
Ra'a to see,
I mean,
we will have here Aleph.
Aleph, okay, that's fine.
Aleph. So this is the difference. And as I told you, this is that is why the Hebrew language is a little bit tricky, because some words sounds the same,
sound the same.
but because of the different letter, they have different meaning. Okay, but thank you for pointing it out. Now we have another interrogative article, and this article is used when we want to ask a general question. So what a general question is, for example, if I want to ask you a question, are you an Adventist? So in this case, I do not use any kind of interrogative particle, but it is just a general question which is supposed to be answered yes or no. So if we want to ask this question, we need to add a particle ha to the word, particle ha to the word. And like, for example, here, ha tachat Elohim Anohi. Anohi. It is also actually from the Bible. You know tachat. Tachat means under, beneath.
Under,
beneath. Yes, but another meaning of this pronoun, instead. So in this case, it is instead. Can you try to translate it? Because all other words is unknown to you.
Instead of my God.
Again, please.
Instead of my God.
And there is no my God.
God instead of me. It's God instead of me.
No.
It's an interrogative.
Yes, interrogative.
Am I in God's stead?
Yes, very well, Pastor Posla. Am I instead of God? Ha tachat Elohim ani. So ha tachat Elohim anohi means am I instead of God? And do you remember who said this?
Am I in the place of God?
Yes, am I in the place of God? Who said this?
It was Joseph.
Yeah, two people said this. Once it was said by Jacob, and another time in the book of Genesis, it was said by Joseph.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
So when it was said by
Jacob.
Yes, Jacob.
When he was talking to Rachel.
Yes, very well, very well.
Yes.
So when Rachel was not able to give birth to a child,
yes,
became pregnant, he said, "Am I on the place of God?" So yeah, you're correct. Okay, so let's try again. What is the difference between ha and ha-lo? Ha, it is just as we mentioned, like for example, am I in the place of God? Ha-lo is a combination of this interrogative particle and negative particle lo. So it means like don't I or am I not, like this. Okay. Usually it could be translated like don't or didn't you or don't you, like this. May I ask somebody to read it first?
can read, Prof.
Sure, please.
Hello, Ata,
Well,
Amareta,
Amarta, mhm,
Ani, Eshemor,
Eshmor, very well.
Kol
Very well. Kol
Hamatzvot, Kol
Hamitzvot.
Hamitzvot,
Yes, just pay attention.
Asher.
Just please stop for a while. Just pay attention to this word, mitzvot. Vav here is not matrix lectionis, is not holem vav, but vav here is a consonant, and holem is additional vowel. So we need to read it hamitzvot. Okay.
Okay. Kol Hamitzvot,
Very well.
Asher,
Oh, very well.
Katav,
Very well.
Hanavi.
Very well, Pastor. Very well. So now let's try to translate it. Any ideas?
Is it, did you not listen?
No, there is no listen.
No,
Marta.
sorry. Oh, sorry.
But the beginning is correct.
Didn't you speak?
Didn't you say?
Oh, didn't you say you will keep all?
Didn't you say Ani? I
will keep.
I will keep. Eshmor, very well. I will keep. So do you see, a lemor is not always present. Sometimes they can just omit lemor. So this is like a beginning of the direct speech. So didn't you say? And after that, there is a direct speech.
All the law that the prophet wrote.
Yes, I will keep Eshmor kol, all the commandments that the prophet, what did the prophet do?
Wrote,
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Or had written or wrote. Okay, very well. So it looks like you understood the difference between all those things. Just one more sentence, just for practice.
Where?
And this is also from the Bible. Oh, yeah, Pastor, please read it.
Wherean?
Vayaan.
Vayaan. Call. Call. Hayam.
Ha'am.
Via Milu.
Vayomeru.
Call. Hadabarim.
Very well. Hadevarim.
Asher.
Asher.
Amar.
Amar.
Elohim.
Elohim. Very well.
Naash.
Naaseh. Just pay attention.
Yes.
That
Yes.
yes, it is seen, not shin.
Yes, not she. Yeah. Naaseh.
Okay, so let's try to translate. It is from the Bible, from the book of Exodus. Okay, the first verb. Can you just guess what it is? What root it is?
Via an.
Is it Ya'an?
Pardon?
Is the word Ya'an?
Not really. So let's try to understand it. What kind of form it is it? We have a Vav and Yud.
It's
so,
Vaictol.
Vaictol. So if it is Vaictol, so it is definitely Vav is not the part of the root. And actually we almost do not have words in Hebrew that starts with Vav. And Yud is a prefix. So let's just remove them and let's try to see the root. And remember that root always should have 3 consonants. So if we have only 2 consonants, it means that 1 consonant is missing and we need to provide it.
Verb ana.
Ana, very well.
No.
Ana, and ana means to answer.
Okay. And all the people answered and said.
Very well. And all the people answered and said.
All the words.
Yes.
That God spoke.
Very well.
We will do.
We will do. Very well. Naase, the last one is we will do, naase. So do you remember where it is taken from?
In the book of Exodus, when the law was being given.
Yes, it's chapter 24, when people said that we will be obedient to the covenant. So, and all the people answered and said, all the words that God spoke, we will do, we will do. Okay, okay, very well. So we have several more, but what time is it now? So almost 12. Okay, so let me see how many. Yeah, just for you and okay. So now I would like you to pay attention to this one. And everything else you can do, you can practice at home. The interrogative particle ha can also have different vowels depending on the next consonant. So if it is added to the word which starts with the guttural, so the consonant, the vowel of the interrogative particle could be changed. But what is important? How can we discern between the particle and article? So do you remember that article usually could be added to the nouns and to the adjectives. And when the article is added, the first consonant of the word gets a dagesh forte. But when the interrogative particle is added to the word, it doesn't change the word. So it means that the first consonant doesn't get a dagesh forte. Another thing that we need to remember, that article can never be added to the pronouns, can never be added to the verbs, but only to the adjectives and to the nouns. But interrogative pronoun can be added to any other part of the sentence. Okay? So in this case, we have ata, ha-ata. And in this case, it is clear that the ha, it is not an article because ata is a pronoun, you. An article cannot be added to the pronoun. That is why we know that ha in this case is interrogative particle. And everything else should be clear for you. Okay. Try to, okay, first of all, somebody can read it and we can translate it.
I can read, Prof.
Please, please, please.
Ha'ata tevene et habait lemel.
Very well.
Lemele.
Now let's try to translate it.
Why
did you build a house? The house for a king?
Not why, because if we have why, we would have madua, or we would have lama, but we didn't have lama here. So it is a general question. Do you or tivne is in plural, or I mean is in it is yikto, so it should be future. So how shall we translate it?
Didn't you say you build a house?
No, sir, there is no say. There is no say.
Do you build?
It's better to use future.
Will you build the house?
Will you build the house for the king?
Yes, very well. Will you build the house for a king? Okay, okay. So do you see, here we have to be very careful when we translate different forms of the verb, because it's very tempting to use a kind of translation which is not grammatically correct. Okay, this one is very simple. I think that nobody would have any problem translating this sentence.
Give the land.
Hamelech Natan et haaretz hatova.
The king gave land to her.
The king gave
the good land.
The good land. Very well, very well. The king gave the good land. Now, why I ask you to translate this sentence? Just pay attention to the ha. Do you see? In this case, it is clear that it is article because the vowel is patach, and because we have dagesh forte in the first letter of the root. Now, do you see a little bit different? How can we translate this one?
Did the king give the good land?
Yes, yes. Did the king? So in this case, it is interrogative particle. And we need to translate it is, did the king, or did a king in this case, did a king give the good land? Okay. Or like this one.
Excuse me, bro. This time it is not will the king, it is did.
Yes, did. Did I say will?
You said did. I thought it would be will the king.
No. Because it's
did.
past, it should be did, yes. Actually, it is the same, but the interrogative particle is added to another word. Can you try to translate it?
The king gave a good land.
Again.
The king gave a good land.
Yes, but in this case, we need to make, do you see the first aha here is interrogative particle. So we need to make it in a question.
Did a king give the good land?
Yes, actually, do you see in English, it will be translated the same way.
That the king gave good land?
Yeah, did the king give the good land? And it will be the same. So what is the difference between these two sentences? The difference is in emphasis. So in this case, Hamelech, it means that the main question is who is questioned. The king is questioned. So did he, emphasis on he, did he, king, did king give the good land? But in this case, the emphasis would be on give. Did he give? Did king give the good land? Just I mentioned these two examples in order to demonstrate to you that actually this interrogative particle could be added to any word which is the most appropriate for the question. Okay? So it could be added to the verb, it could be added to the noun, it could be added to the adjective, to any word it could be added. Okay?
Sorry, Prof, come again on those two phrases because
yes, okay. I will repeat it again. So the difference is in emphasis. This one is the emphasis on the king. Did king give the good land? But in this case, the emphasis on to give. Did king give the good land? Okay? So the question is, the emphasis is shifted a little bit, but you cannot convey the same idea in English. So in English, it would be the same. But in Hebrew, you can make different emphasis by adding particle to different words. And yes.
It looks like the emphasis could only be identified in the Hebrew
yes
writing, but in translation, it's the same.
Yes, and in the translation it is the same. So you cannot do it in the translation, but only in but in Hebrew it is possible. Okay, so it is actually everything for you for today. I will need just about half an hour to open all the quizzes for you, and I will do it just in half an hour, and you will have everything. And I will send also the vocabulary for Harry, and Harry I hope will provide it maybe today or maximum tomorrow. Okay. Any other questions?
You said you'll open in half an hour?
All the materials of this class or the week verbs I will open maybe just in half an hour or even faster.
Excuse me,
but I hope.
Excuse me, Prof.
Yes.
For how long will the previous work be on?
Again?
For how long will the previous work be on? The previous week's work.
How long?
Yeah, because some of us didn't finish. We got involved in the other office
you
work.
mean the deadline?
Yes.
You mean the deadline?